This simulation of abstract, unstructured particles colliding within these walls represents the state of unmanaged data in a corporate environment. When raw organizational costs, wages, electricity, and materials first enter a business, they exist as an untrackable, monolithic liability. Managerial accounting organizes this data by imposing a strict topography through a two-step spatial and conceptual mapping process. The first step logically isolates these incoming costs into cost centers. A cost center determines the where and the who of an expense. The terminal step assigns those isolated costs to cost objects. A cost object determines the what or why of an expense. These steps are defined by the legal and logical frameworks of CIMA, GACSAP 21, and Cost Accounting Standard 1. Applying the boundaries of cost centers and cost objects converts unmapped expenses into a measurable operational chain. A cost center serves as the initial collecting place for costs before any further analysis occurs. This blueprint grid demonstrates the concept. A structural boundary is drawn, and raw cost data falls directly into it. CIMA Official Terminology defines this space as a production or service location, function, activity, or item of equipment for which costs are accumulated. In most corporate environments, standard departments are the specific entities designated as cost centers. The generally accepted cost accounting principles, or GACAP 21, and paragraph 4.6 of CAS 1 define a cost unit as any entity selected specifically to accumulate all costs under that unit. GACAP 21 specifies that this unit can be a division, department, section, group of plant and machinery, group of employees, or a combination of several units. At this stage, the cost center functions strictly for accumulation, not for assignment or valuation. This accumulation ensures no raw cost is lost in the general ledger before specialized analysis begins. A cost center is a selected container designed to pool costs before they are routed elsewhere in the organization. Cost centers are further categorized by their composition, using a binary between personal and impersonal centers. The blueprint separates into two categories based on what is accumulating the cost. A personal cost center consists of a person or a distinct group of persons. An impersonal cost center represents any unit that is not personal, such as plant machinery. Beyond composition, a cost center is classified by its operational role within the company. Operating cost centers are nodes that sit directly in the active chain of operations. Examples include machine shops, welding shops, assembly shops, operation theaters, and call centers. Support service cost centers exist to render services to the operating cost centers. These nodes include powerhouses, maintenance, stores, help desks, and transport services. Classifying a cost center by its composition and role identifies which asset is absorbing costs and what function that asset serves. Cost centers establish clear lines of managerial jurisdiction. Because of this jurisdiction, cost centers are frequently referred to as responsibility centers. Managers of these units are accountable for the costs under their direct control. Due to this strict control over accumulated expenses, these nodes are also known as expense centers. Bounding a cost center allows an organization to evaluate a manager's performance by isolating only the costs they can actively influence. Once costs are accumulated, the narrative shifts to the final phase, cost measurement. Look at how the costs leave their logical boundaries to attach to a final target. This target is the cost object, the ultimate entity for which costs are ascertained and measured. While centers collect costs, objects are the reason costs are measured. CIMA defines a cost object as a product, service, center, activity, customer, or distribution channel in relation to which costs are ascertained. GACAP 21 and CAS 1 corroborate this, listing activities, contracts, customers, processes, products, and projects as potential objects. A physical product is a common example of a cost object, where the total cost of manufacturing a specific unit is measured. Service-based examples include calculating the cost of a service to a hotel guest or the cost of operating a specific sales territory. A single cost object, like a hotel guest, may draw costs from multiple cost centers, such as maintenance, power, and food service.
Without cost objects, the accumulations within cost centers remain pools of data without final economic meaning. We can now review the complete accounting topography. This zoomed-out view shows the timeline, starting with raw cost data flowing in from the left. First, costs pool logically inside the functionally labeled cost centers. These centers act as filters, separating data by composition and operational role. Finally, these costs are routed into terminal cost objects on the right for final measurement. Centers dictate accumulation and managerial accountability. Objects dictate the final measurement. Treating organizational costs as a schematic, aligned with CIMA and GACAP frameworks, allows a company to map its spending with functional precision.